good morning.
Good
Good or
morning.
bad or good morning,
Very,
Doug.
very good to see you. How's your week?
Oh, I've had a great week. My dear, my dear. Oh, busy, busy.
Excellent, excellent. I hear you
Yes,
have you have company from California, which is
I
fantastic.
do. I
Congratulations.
do. One of my favorite people in the whole world.
Yeah.
And late night last night, picked up two friends at the airport and got in about 2 o'clock to bed. So how are things on the Ottawa River, Doug?
Oh, the ice is gone. I just picked up the boat. It's sitting by the house, but yeah, I'm just not ready to go in the Ottawa River just yet. It's just a little chilly. It's sort of like hypothermia time in the Ottawa River, unless you're wearing a glued and sewn wetsuit. Not the
Oh,
one that just is sewn because then the water leaks in.
right, right. Well, greetings, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the Press Box and our host, Doug Smith, and myself co hosting today. And we have a very special guest coming in a few minutes. So, just letting you know that we're streaming live right now on YouTube, Lori Davis Show Host channel, and also on our Facebook page, Self Worth the Missing Link Superstars, because we're always surrounding ourselves with superstars. Facebook. So tune in there and you can go in there and share the show. And we have a fabulous guest today. Doug, maybe take a couple of minutes and just talk to our viewers because we may have new viewers today who just found out about us and the purpose of our show and why we want to do the show. Over to
Yeah.
you.
Thanks, Lori. Yeah, we just want to help people get better in the simplest, most effective way possible. And the focus is on the mind. The mind leads the body, right? And the mind heals the body. And so the programs that we're working with and helping people with allow them to change quick and effectively. That's not to say there isn't any pain, because there has to be pain for growth. But what we do is we minimize the pain, and we surround you with a group of supporters so that you could talk to different people about different situations and share your own story among others. So I'm so excited to see the results. It's not just about what we're doing. It's about the results are just consistent. Every time somebody steps in, the only way that you're not going to succeed with what we're offering is if you don't show up. So I've always said that about sports too. 80% of the deal is just showing up and being there more than the next person. So
Mhm.
very, very excited about the future, Lori, and the role that we can play in helping people to solve these seemingly incredibly powerfully bad situations that they've made up in their mind, and to help them clean that out and get things going in the right direction. It's very exciting to me. It's something I've dreamt of for 20 years.
Oh, wow. You mean I'm part of that dream team, am I?
Well, when I wrote the trauma code, like the trauma code, it just seems to blend in with and enhance, and so I get a chance to participate with people like yourself and the Disability Channel and the Invictus Games and all this, just because of my experience. It's incredible. Thank you so much. I like to thank you every week for joining me here.
You bet. My pleasure. I look forward to it as well. So today we have a very special guest. His name is Richard Fast, and there's nothing slow about him. So I understand why he has that last name. In just
Well,
meeting him for a few minutes before the show,
well,
like he's got the perfect name.
the perfect name, and the most fascinating story. I think of it all the time. I have his books. This guy released a game into the marketplace called Mind Trap when we didn't have the internet, and sold millions and millions of copies. Many of our listeners would probably remember the game Mind Trap. And today, what Richard's doing is he's applying his awareness about how to trap the mind, but getting people to do things physically that are seemingly irrelevant, but that keep you younger. And so the whole anti-aging part of things, it's all about you and how you're treating yourself and what your mind is thinking and what you're putting in your body. And Richard is an expert on that. So I'm looking forward to hearing the whole story from Mind Trap to health.
Yes, same here. Well, talking about the aging process, I read a little post about Clint Eastwood, and we all know he's 93 and he's still making movies and he's working. And somebody's asked him, "So what's the deal, Clint? What's the deal? Like you're 93?" And he said, "Well, I've just never let the old man in."
Wow.
Yeah. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to be the same. I'm just not letting the old gal in. I'm resisting it at all levels. So I'm looking forward to hearing what Richard has to say. So without any more wasting time, let's welcome him to the studio.
Excellent. Excellent.
There you go. Hi,
Hey,
Richard.
Richard.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me here.
Yes,
Richard,
thank you for joining us.
Where are you coming in from, Richard?
Burlington, Ontario,
All right.
just outside of Toronto.
Yes, I know where that is. I've been there. Been there. So here's the guy, here's the genius behind the game, Mind Trap. And I guess I'd like to start us off by sharing that because some people may not know about it, even after 30 million copies. Hey, I told
wish.
Doug, I said, well, we have another person, I always talk about her in my workshops. Her name is Dottie Walters. And Dottie Walters passed away in 2007. And when she passed away, she owned a speaking bureau. She had 35,000 speakers on her roster, sending her money every month, because if you got a gig through her speaking bureau, you had to pay them a certain amount, right? So over to you, Richard. Tell us, first of all, about Mind Trap. I love that because I don't know the story.
Okay. Well, Mind Trap. I'll begin by what happened. I was in Kingston working, waiting on tables, working at Aunt Lucy's. And, after a shift, I was sitting at home doing one of my favorite things, reading a great book and drinking a beer. And, Agatha Christie, she's just so compelling. And I thought, so I'm reading this book, just enjoying the hell out of it. And all of a sudden it dawned on me. Now, this is 1984, to put perspective on it. Trivial Pursuit at that time was selling a gazillion copies a day. And so I'm reading this Agatha Christie novel, and all of a sudden it occurred to me, wait a minute. Why am I reading this novel? Well, I just want that one chance to figure out the whodunit. And I thought, you know what? Same thing kind of happens when we watch a murder mystery movie. The fun is see if you can actually figure it out. And that's what Agatha Christie is. Her brilliance comes through, because a lot of times it's when you find out the answer, the whodunit, it was like, well, I couldn't have known that anyway. But she always leaves a trail of clues. And that's when you hear the answer, it's like, oh my God, I wish I'd love to have another crack at that. So all of a sudden it occurred to me that, wait a minute, why do we read these books? Because we want that one chance to figure it out. But what if, rather than having to invest 3 hours in a movie or 10 hours in a book, if we could kind of feed it like bite-sized things, like a potato chip? Okay, give me another one. And all of a sudden, it was like an epiphany. I was walking around thinking, like, this is amazing. This is going to blow Trivial Pursuit out of the water. Now, my euphoria, of course, it lasted a while. And at that time, my girlfriend came home, and I'm like almost speaking to her in hushed tones. I was so excited and so confident this thing was going to blow through the roof. And so I thought, okay, so what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to write out 1,500 murder mysteries. Well, sounds good in theory. 2 weeks later, I had written exactly 2. And then it sort of dawned on me, writing these murder mysteries isn't quite as simple as I thought. But, I knew that I had stumbled upon something, just like the guys with Trivial Pursuit. They didn't invent trivia. It had been around a long time. What they did was they took it and packaged it in a way that was, it was competitive. It was exciting. It was really compelling. And they kind of hit the sweet notes of good trivia versus crappy trivia. So so watching what they did, then I thought, okay, what I'm doing here, or what I'm theorizing, is that, murder mysteries and conundrums, well, I didn't invent them, and Agatha Christie didn't invent them. I mean, they've been around since ancient mythology. So I thought, well, why don't I start, in addition to writing some, why don't I start scouring the world and collecting these things and see if I couldn't assemble it in some kind of a game? So even like 3 months later, I mean, I'm talking in hushed tones about this because I know that if anybody even hears this idea, they're going to run to this company, beat me to it. And, I'm sitting high and dry, and it was my idea all along. Well, about a year later, I would buy you beer all night if you just listen to me tell you about my great idea. So how things change, right? But every time I would get into this for a month and then I kind of forget about it. And I guess the fact that I was still waiting on tables at Aunt Lucy's was a little bit of compelling energy to get me to keep pushing forward. Well, it happened, I guess about 3-4 years later, I had upped it to around 450, what I thought were really suitable questions that would fit my script of what I thought would be a good answer or a good question. And it had to be one of these things. So Lori, if I gave you a question to pose, like it could be a murder mystery, it could be like one of those riddles, it could be a conundrum. But if I gave it to you and I said, okay, here it is, Lori, and you answered, and I said, no, you're wrong. And I give you the answer, you go, oh my God. Okay, give me another one. This time I'm smarter. That would work as a good question. So it took a long time, of course, writing and collecting these things. So when I was around year 5, I guess, I thought, well, it's pretty much ready to go. And I hooked up with a friend who was an artist. And at that time I was, one of my friends who was articling in Kingston at the University of Queens. I thought I'd need some legal assistance as well. So I had these 2 partners and the 3 of us were going to go ahead. So we did a lot of testing, and this was key. And this kind of ties in with what you guys do, but because it's about knowing that so we did a lot of testing with focus groups and stuff like that. And in doing that, you quickly learn when people don't like something, they're not shy about telling you. And, it was really valuable because what we found out was, some things just didn't work. That's things that you think you do because you're so close to it. So you kind of see some questions, you think this is great. And everybody else goes, that's crap. So anyway, we kind of honed things and we got things down to where we wanted to go. And all that testing we did. And I thought, okay, well, I'm ready to go. So off I would go to games companies. And at that time, it was a very different landscape than today, but there was a lot of games companies. So I went to the first one. I basically thought, look, I'll pitch this to 3 or 4 companies and just sit back and let them get into a price bidding war to see who gets the royalty, that gets a license for it. Well, yeah, reality has a way of bringing you around very quickly. And everybody said, basically the thing was, yeah, well, it's nice, it's fine. And we had a great looking prototype, by the way. And we called it Mind Trap. But everybody was, the games companies looked at it and said, it's interesting, but it's too cerebral. The public could never go for it. So you go to another company, they kind of said the same thing. The other company said, well, if you sell a few thousand, come back, we might be interested. So that was reality. That was the lay of the land. Now, at that time, it was pretty much a case of, okay, either pack this thing up or go home, or you're going to have to find another way. Now, here's the thing. And I know Trivial Pursuit got turned down by everybody, every major product. At this time, I had done enough research to know that every major product gets, you got to run the gauntlet. Nobody all of a sudden says, oh, what a great idea. So I thought, all right, this is what I'm saying kind of ties in with what you guys do. Doing 2 or 3 years of really hard testing, I knew that this was not some fantasy thing because I saw the reaction when people were playing it. And one of the best reactions I ever got was, I loved this, was people say, yeah, well, and I would drop the game off. I wouldn't be there because it would just screw the dynamics up. And I would get some feedback, obviously, the next day or whenever. And people said, Rich, I got to be honest with you. When we were playing Mind Trap, we'd play a couple of questions and then we'd end up talking about something else and we'd, get back to another one. We only played about 15 questions. So they thought that I would think that's awful. That was music. That was gold, because a game isn't about you or the game. It's about creating an atmosphere, whatever that dynamic is.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I knew. So I went to a lot of the testers that had done it. And I said, look, we're going to do this ourselves. And because the games companies, they want to see that I can actually sell this thing. They didn't want to put their money in. And in retrospect, they were absolutely right. So I raised $85,000, friends and family. And this was this was 1990, July. I had $85,000, went to a manufacturer in Toronto, and I'd moved to Toronto from Kingston in order to do this. So I went to this manufacturer, Donnie Montone, and he said, sure, I'll and I got 3 quotes. I had quotes at $60 for a game. I had quotes at $38, and I got one for $16. And obviously, that one was the winner. So here we go. We produced 2,500. And, I'm thinking at that time, this is so unfortunate because this 2,500, it's going to disappear in a heartbeat, and then we're out of games, and I got no more money. So we get them done in September. And then I thought, well, okay, I'll go to the games companies around Toronto. There's Denver Men and Duffer and Games and Games a Lot and all these guys. Well, they all kind of said, look, how much money are you going to spend on TV advertising? It's like, what? I can't even afford a TV, never mind advertise on it. And they said, well, you got to understand something, Richard. This is October. We use our Christmas budget. It's burned up by April. We don't have any money for this. What are you thinking? And you're not going to advertise? You got to be joking. I thought, uh-oh. And I had gone to, I would say, 12 different companies, Moyers, just so many different companies. And I went to them all. And at the end of it, I had sold 10 games on consignment. And I thought, I am so screwed. How am I going to face my investors? I've taken $85,000 and I promised them that this thing was going to fly. And here I'm sitting high and dry. I'm dead in the water. And what am I going to do? So, I kept reverting back to the fact that, look, this does work. I know the game works. It's now about getting the word out there. How am I going to do that? I had $15,000 left from the 85. So I contacted a husband and wife team. They said, look, we can help you get publicity. And I said, well, how much is it going to cost? And they said, well, how much do you got? Well, it happened to be that $15,000 was the magic number that they needed. So they took the last of my money and I'm basically trusting this couple to do it. Now, at that time, I was working at Remy's in Yorkville in Toronto. This is a, very sort of cutting edge at that time restaurant. So Ron and Adriana, they were my reps, my publicity reps. They said, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to invite 100 top press people from Toronto. That would be from, CBC and Gary Dunford and Roger Rick and Marilyn from Chum FM. We're going to invite all these people. We're going to have 100 people come to Remy's, and we're going to get them to play Mind Trap, and they're going to go and write all these great articles and do, stuff on you. And I thought, well, it sounds great in theory, but why would they want to come to this? Oh, Richard, what we'll do is we'll have like balloons. The Mind Trap will have the question on the outside, and you pop the balloon and you get the answer. I said, no, about Adriana. What makes you think they're going to come? Oh, Richard, we're going to have hors d'oeuvres and we'll have tablecloths that go to the ground. And I thought, okay, I'm reading this right. I'm pretty sure they have no guarantees anyone's going to come. We're going to spend all this money in this crappy party, and I'm going to be just further in debt. So I thought, okay, when your back's to the wall, you have to sometimes pull from something.
That's right.
And I thought, okay, you know what? As I said to you, Lori, if I gave you a question and you got it wrong, you go, oh, crap. Okay, give me another one. This time I'm smarter. Well, that was the key. And I thought, all right. I phoned Adriana up and I said, Adriana, scratch your idea with a party. You and Ron are going to start licking envelopes. And they're like, what? I said, you're going to start licking envelopes. So we took 100 games, took 10 of our best questions, pulled those out, we put it in an envelope. So one morning, Roger, Rick, and Marilyn, or Gary Dunford, or whatever, all these 100 people, they would get a Mind Trap question in the mail. There was no who it came from, no what it was. It was just a Mind Trap question. That was it. Well, I'm sure they looked at it and thought, well, toss it aside. 2 days later, they got another one. Then 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 they got another one. Well, all of a sudden, the miraculous thing happened. They were playing. They said, we don't know where these are coming from. We don't even know what this is. But here's your morning Mind Trap. And they were playing it on the radio. We were getting airplay all over the place. Suddenly, Denver Men and Duffer and Games are calling me saying, how do we get your game? And so here I am driving this little Honda. I'm driving it around all over Ontario, delivering games. I mean, a lot of them are, of course, UPS and Purolator, but this thing started taking off, and it took off in a massive way. So early November, we're starting to track, and every week it's going. So getting near the end of November, I knew we were going to be sold out. So I called Donnie Montone, who was, kind enough to print the first round. And he said, you know what, I'll finance you for the second round, which he did. So he did another 2,500, which we managed to get by December 9. On December 21st, the president of CBC, called me and said, look, Mindtrap's at the top of my daughter's list and I can't find it anywhere. Can you get me one? And I said, to be honest with you, no. I virtually don't have any left. I have nothing left. I said, I've got one copy. It's kind of beat up, but that's all I've got. And I'm not, he said, I'll take it. And so I'm driving this thing over in the 22nd of December. But we had virtually sold out the second run at 2,500 in just a few days. So going after that, of course, in January, the end of January is the Canadian Toy Fair. Well, everything changed. I mean, by then we were, companies were approaching us to license it. Then, of course, we went to New York 2 weeks later, which is the New York Toy Show. Long and short of it is that I think, fortunately for me, I had no money to advertise because paid advertise would have gone nowhere. But this kind of advertising that we did, this word of mouth and this fun thing, it absolutely took off. And by June of 1992, we had licenses in Greece, Spain, Germany, France, the UK. It was being translated into 11 different languages, and the whole thing took off. And when we had new licensors, I said, look, don't spend money in advertising. Follow what I did and do it that way. And from there, it took off. And that's the story of Mindtrap.
Wow, perseverance. You must have questions, Lori.
Well, no, I'm making a lot of connections.
Yeah,
because I did the same thing with my systems.
What'd you do?
Well, my workshops. I came home from work one day and I said to Ron, that's my husband, and he was my business partner. He's retired now. But I came home and we'd been in business about 5 years, opened our doors in 92. I wanted to own a private training company.
Yeah.
But my background's education, and I had done 12 years of marketing and sales. So the two things together. So I came home and I said to him, well, I've discovered 3 things. I've been working with people for 27 years, from 5 years old to 100. And here's what I know. And when you said, I know what I know, I said, number one, most people are walking around feeling as though there's something wrong with them.
Yeah.
Whether there is or not, they believe that and they bought in. All right. Secondly, many people lack confidence. Not you, but they're not willing to take the risks. That's a lack of confidence. That's different. And the third thing, poor communication skills. And I'm going to do something about it. I said, not everybody needs a therapist. And we need to become our own best therapist.
Love it.
So my husband was an AME, aircraft maintenance engineer, very intellectual, very on the other end of the stick from me. So, of course, he crosses his eyebrows and looks over his glasses and says, well, what's your plan? I said, plan? I don't have a plan. I have an idea.
Yeah.
So, well, all right, how can I support you? I said, well, we had this little cabin in the woods in Nova Scotia. It was a wonderful place. We went there for 12 years. Friends of ours owned it, and they had moved to the States and wanted us to look after it. I said, well, let's take me to the lake and I'll get creative. So I'll go to the lake, spend the weekend. By Sunday afternoon, I still don't have anything. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I went, I know. And when you mentioned the questions, I know what I know, because I have always felt there's something wrong with me. I have lacked so much confidence in so many areas.
Right. Yeah.
And I've been married 3 times. So obviously my communication skills are not up to snuff. So I just started asking me the questions, so why don't you have any self-esteem? Why did you lack confidence? And the next thing I know, I had 10 little workshops created. And I went home and I grabbed 2 of my girlfriends that were trashed in the ditch. I said, I know you're not doing anything Wednesday night. Come over to my office. I think I'm on to something. So a lot of the language that you used to describe your journey is very similar to mine.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
we started with 10 workshops. We now have over 1,000.
Beautiful.
And they're all backed with hard copy curriculum. And my core program's been translated into French, Chinese, Spanish, German. So, the journeys are similar, Richard. Thank you for asking.
It was
Yeah.
a natural, Lori and I, what Lori does is a natural progression and an enhancement to what I do, right? Like
Yeah.
when I identify people that are in pain, because those are the only people you can help, because if they're not in pain, they don't need any help. I can take them to a certain point where we agree on that.
Yeah.
And then once we agree on that, then it's like, what's the course of action? And it always includes what Lori's doing, because it's such a critical piece. She's not a lawyer, she's not a doctor, but it doesn't matter. That's not what her role is. If the client needs a doctor or a lawyer, we get them a doctor or a lawyer.
Yeah.
But
well, if they come to me first, they probably won't need either.
Yeah, but certain things businesses need, but you don't need to go to those meetings. You know what I mean? So
yeah, for sure.
So making people stronger from the inside out, from the central nervous system outwards. And I know that, Richard, you agree with that philosophy, and now you've taken your mind and you're applying it to simple things to hopefully trap people's minds with exercises that they can do. And you want to get the message out that you can be younger at 65 than you are at 60. You can be younger at 60 than you are at 55. So, where is this going today? Where are you taking your mind?
Yeah. Well, yeah, thanks, Doug. Appreciate that. I think one of the things is, and the work that you guys are doing and the work that I'm doing, I kind of always go back to this. We all lack confidence to some degree. And I think most of us are in the thing like, okay, look, I don't mind working hard and I don't mind, really putting in it, but I want to know that I'm not spinning my wheels, which is where having a good coach or having a basic understanding is like, I don't mind doing the work, but how many times do we do the work and we're basically doing something really unproductive? And not knowingly unproductive. And then so that what happens? Well, you get frustrated, your confidence drops even more, and we keep going all the way down. Whereas I believe that I believe in Laura, you talked about this a little bit earlier about you can't help somebody. The best thing you can do is have somebody help you. And I'm a personal trainer, and one of the things that they taught us right off the bat was, look, if you're going to be a good personal trainer, what you want to do is teach someone how they don't need you any longer. You want to show them how they can take what you have for a period of time. Maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's a year, but you don't want to create that permanent dependence. Like, 7 years later, you're still on the couch talking to your psychologist, or you're still working with your trainer, because you shouldn't have to. Mm-hmm. And that to me is the goal, is to how do you get people, to really understand that you get them on the right track, and because they have to figure it out ultimately. But if you give them all the right tools, then they don't need you anymore. And that's what our job really is. And I believe that so strongly. Mm-hmm. So whether it becomes, whether it's, I wrote a book on decision making, but I wrote a book called Obesity, It's Not What You Think It Is. And a lot of course, and people immediately think obesity, it's about being fat. It's got nothing to do with being fat. Obesity is a health issue. It's not a weight issue whatsoever. And I say in this book, look, there are people, so-called skinny people, are just as likely to be suffering obesity as people who are so-called overweight, because it is absolutely a health issue. And I feel so passionately about this because we are poisoning our children. We're poisoning ourselves, but we're poisoning our children in a great way. And again, the solution is very, very simple. It's not complicated. It's got nothing to do with drugs and diets and all that kind of stuff. It's a very simple solution. And same thing, and the same thing is with, when it comes to decision making, understanding how our mind really works. It doesn't work the way we think it does, but it's very drivable if we just understand the real basics behind how our biases and how these cognitive tricks trap us into feeling right. And I maintain, and I have made, after Mind Trap, I got into a business, and we raised $17 million, and I was going to do this electronic game, and it was a great product, but because of hubris and false confidence, we lost it all. And of course, that sent me down another path. And after coming through that path in 2012 is when I really decided I got to figure out, was my results, was it a case of unpredictability? Was it a case of hubris? Or could we really take control and actually, if we know what we're doing, can we actually make good decisions with 100% certainty? And the answer is yes, we can.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Right.
And so how does the process start? If you could give somebody that's listening to this show, and me and Lori, the one place that you can start, and then where you would follow up with that.
Okay, the first thing to start with. Okay, so I'm gonna refer to, why did I write obesity? Well, first of all, I was 55 years old, and all of a sudden, my pants are getting tight, and I had never had an issue all my life with weight. I could eat anything I wanted and drink anything I wanted, I had no problem. But all of a sudden, I was 205 pounds, and things were serious. I thought, okay, you know what? I'm just going to go on a diet and get rid of this problem. 6 months later, I hadn't lost a pound, and I tried all kinds of stuff. So I'm a research nutcase. So I thought, okay, I'm going to really research this. Is this a food issue? What really is the issue? And what I found was that I'm going to sum this up. The weight loss industry says, we're overweight. Well, it's all about dieting, counting calories and all that. And then the big food company comes by and says, those guys are crazy. The problem is we're just too sedentary. And then, of course, the pharmaceutical people, they want in on the greatest cash cow in history. And they said, both those guys are crazy. You know what obesity is? Obesity is a disease. And the only way we combat is with supplements and drugs. Well, all three of them are crazy. I'll tell you the root cause of obesity right now. It is malnutrition. Now, I know that strikes people as probably odd, but it is malnutrition. What's happening is that we're eating chemical substances that are high in calories. So we're getting lots of calories, but on the cellular level, where it really matters, we are virtually starving. A body suffering malnutrition, a body that is starving, if we're getting lots of calories, we might be getting fatter, but as I said, at the cellular level, we are virtually starving. And what happens when you're starving? Well, your hormones, your satiety hormones, your hunger hormones, they go out of whack because their first concern is just survival. So what happens? Well, somebody's getting overweight. They're eating this crappy diet. They read all this stuff. Your doctor says, well, you gotta start eating less. You gotta lose weight. So already they're starving their body, but they confuse food with what they're consuming. So your body wants real food, but it's not getting it. So already you're depriving your body of good food. You go on a diet. What's happening? You're exacerbating the problem. You're eating even less of this poor quality crap. And so you're actually upping the starving level at the cellular level. And so we're wondering, why can't I lose weight? Well, this is going way beyond. This is all psychology. This is basically eons of survival technology, your brain, who's doing everything it can to make you eat more. It can't make you stop eating garbage. It's trying to, but we don't realize that as soon as you eat food, everything will change. Your hormones will reset. Your body wants you to be at an optimal weight because you have to hunt and gather. Your body, if you feed your body properly, it will start finding that beautiful equilibrium between fat reserves, which is your only link between death and starvation and life. So your body's always adjusting this thing. But if you keep feeding it all these empty calories, your body, we are not biologically equipped to eat this garbage. So your body has no idea what's going on. So when I wrote Obesity, I did enough research. 1975 marked the year in which this all began. So it was the year in which we began eating more of this ultra-processed garbage than the human body can overcome. That was the tipping point. And it's like a hockey stick. It's going straight up. Year after year after year, it's going up. And the solution is remarkably simple. If you start eating real food, and that's all I did at 55 years old, I started cutting out all the garbage. I eat I eat anything I want. I eat chicken wings. I eat burgers. I eat fries. But you know what? People go, oh, you shouldn't eat fries. Okay, take a potato. I'll give you a quick example. Cut it all up, drizzle it some olive oil, put some spices on it, throw it in the oven, pull it out. 25 minutes later, you got crispy fries. And you tell me that's not healthy? That's 100% healthy. Make a hamburger at home. Put, whatever you want, onions, tomatoes, all this stuff. That is 100% healthy. We confuse a hamburger from McDonald's with being real food. It is not food. So in my book, it's a short book, but I walk you through it. I want you as a reader to change your perspective. And we have our definitions wrong. So we're told you got to eat less food. Okay, so what do you describe as food? That's the problem. We lump all this garbage we're eating in as food. Yeah, it's stuff that we're eating, but it's not food because it doesn't even fit the basic definition of food, which is any nutritious substance that supports life and maintains growth. Ultra-processed food, which is what we're getting more than 60% of our calories from that, does not fit a basic definition of food. And we're wondering why we have an obesity issue. And believe me, obesity's got nothing to do with fat. This is about health problems, Alzheimer's, dementia, the whole list of everything you can think of. It stems from what we are eating. And cognitive issues is a major factor because whether we realize it or not, every cell in your body is made from what you are eating. And if you're not eating real food, then you are constructing your body out of chemicals and your body doesn't know what to do. So I'll finally shut up.
It's a list.
Oh, that's awesome.
I love it. It's a list of symptoms, right? And we get lost on the symptoms. We stare at the symptoms and we're not looking at the source of the problem. We're not looking at what the problem is, right?
Yes.
And that's what symptoms do to us, right? They fool us because the medical system points to them because that's how they get paid.
That's right.
You nailed it. It's all about the money. Follow the money and you'll follow the problem.
Well, I'd like to throw in a curve on that if you
please do.
Yeah. Not to, I 1000% am on board with you. But in my work, because I work in the area of emotional wellness, I don't think there's such a word as emotional intelligence. You can't solve your emotional problems intellectually. But I could walk into a room of, let's say, kids between the ages of 16 and 18, and I could point out to you the ones that have been sexually assaulted because they're overweight. And obesity is one of the symptoms of the outcome of having been sexually assaulted, because the weight gain, the body emotionally builds protection.
Yes.
And especially around the middle of your body, your genitals, that area. And so when you see kids with that kind of obesity, chances are they've been sexually assaulted.
That is fascinating. Of all the research I've done, this is the first time I heard that link. I totally concur with it. It makes total sense. But yeah, that's so interesting.
Because emotionally, the trauma causes us not to want anybody to, particularly women, but boys too. I see it in the boys. So I'll make myself unattractive. The body builds that protection, so that never happens to me again.
Very interesting. Yeah, the foundation of everything we have. Every cell in your body, every cell in your brain is made from what you eat. And that is the foundation. So, when just to use my quick journey, when I was 205 pounds, I'm like 170, 75, which is neither here nor there. But the point is, I lost that weight, not by dieting. I eat anything I want. But this is the critical thing people need to understand is if you're eating real food, it's almost impossible to overeat. And I'm not a monk nutcase that I don't eat any ultra processed foods. I do. I love diet pop and I love potato chips and so on. But it's like 10% of what I eat. And if you can limit that, then you're going to be fine. It's what we do 90% of the time. But the problem is, that the diet in the United States is
Oh,
And this is conservative. Most people are getting more than 60% of their total calories, but the problem is that's just the food. That doesn't mean, you know, all the drinks that they're getting as well. We are virtually poisoning ourselves, and the results that we're seeing, if you really understand what we're eating, there's nothing else possible than the results we're getting based on what we're eating. Nothing else is possible.
Now, Richard, would the work that you do and the publications that you have give a person sort of a removal process, like remove this, remove that, because that's really what it's about, right? We're all right.
Yes.
We've got to keep about 50% of what we're eating and keep eating it. But do you have that? Do your books explain that? Like just the simple way to remove those things?
Well, yeah. So what it is, I think, I believe everything is kind of like changing your perspective. You know, that, I mean, we would all love to have that Saul on the road to Damascus, like, oh my God, that's it. Like a friend of mine, he always had a drinking problem for most of his life. The moment he got his grandchild and held her, he stopped drinking. Well, what happened there? Well, he tried everything in the world to quit drinking. He never could. But the moment he saw his granddaughter, he had a change of perspective. Now, that's a lucky way to change it. But the only other way is the work that we do, is you try to walk somebody through it to change their perspective. And what I do in Obesity, It's Not What You Think It Is, in that book, I try to walk people through how we're being conditioned. We don't realize how the big companies and media is conditioning us for their own means to keep lining their pockets. And I'm not blaming them. What I'm saying is, and I say this in my talk, is the moment we say that big food is responsible for our health, then we have rendered ourselves powerless, because we're saying that change must begin with them. And that's a mistake. That's the mistake we have been making all along.
Mm.
The most important people in this world are you and your family. And you can influence both to a lifetime of health and healthy eating. So that's the perspective that I want people to just shift that around. And if we want to poison ourselves, that's one thing. But when we see 4-year-old children with fatty liver disease,
ooh,
my God, I get so pissed off. That is just unconscionable, but it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and people are doing it deliberately. We got to realize that we can't be eating chemical concoctions and expect anything else other than what we're getting. So I just want people to realize, look, there's a lot of joy in food. Food is supposed to be something we celebrate, not something that we count calories and we go, oh, shit, I can't eat this. And look, when you start eating real food, everything will change, because this hyper palatable garbage, something from, McDonald's or whatever, this sugar sweetened stuff. When you start eating real food, you will love sugar. You taste that stuff, you'll spit it out, because it doesn't have a natural balance. We have altered our complete appetite because we're eating everything's hyper. And when you start eating real food, you couldn't even eat that crap. So that's what I just want people to understand. Look, it's not about slaving over a kitchen. It's not about and it's not about avoiding food. It's just about avoiding chemicals. And when you start eating real food, I'm telling you, in about 2 weeks, all of a sudden this stuff is unpalatable.
yes,
I can tell you, if I ate McDonald's today, I wouldn't be able to keep it down for 10 minutes. And I could use I just use McDonald's because it's the first one that pops into my mind. But even like all these frozen foods at the supermarket, all this stuff, if it's full of chemicals, and it is, you're not doing yourself any favors.
Well, I always say, if you can't read the contents, if you can't even pronounce them verbally, you better not be eating it. Right?
That's a very good rule of thumb. That's a very good rule of thumb. Yeah.
But I was shopping one day, and I was at the meat counter, and I was trying to decide, what I'm going to get, chicken or whatever. And these two young women, early 20s, both had a baby in the carriage, in the cart.
Yeah.
And the cart was full of cans and boxes. I spend very little time in those middle aisles of the grocery store. Cans and boxes and, pizza pops and things like that. And one girl said to the other, well, there's no point in me buying any of this. I wouldn't know what to do with it.
I know.
And I thought, wow, some mom my mom didn't teach me how to cook, although my mom is a beautiful cook. She preferred that we girls get an education. But my grandma taught me how to cook. And there's a lack of parenting, not teaching your kids how to cook in a healthy kind of way.
Yeah.
They grow up and have families, and now they can't even feed their families. So there's a bit of a, what do you call that? Pass down of poor habits.
Oh, you know what? And I want people. I don't want to make people sound like. I understand. Like, you're a woman in an inner city trying to raise a kid, and you might be doing it on your own, holding down 2 jobs. Look, I understand that, and I'm not suggesting. We live in an obesogenic environment, and I'm not so blind to think that. Look, that there are some challenges here that I don't think people can overcome, but necessarily. But I think that doesn't hold true for all of us. No. I think most of us can find the time and the budget to eat real food. And I'm not, I understand there's a lot of exceptions, but there's a lot of us who have absolutely no justification for eating what we're eating.
It's about your subconscious mind. It goes back to that, and
yes.
the work that I do. Your subconscious mind controls you.
Yes.
Right. And the minute that you become aware that you're being controlled by something, you start to do something about it. And so that's the solution, right? It's a switch in the brain where you go, wow, I am controlled by something else. I'm not in total control. And then you'll follow a different map, that will take you from the current reality, to the desired future. But if you don't have a desire to have a healthier life, then there's nothing you can do, right? Unfortunately.
100%, Doug. Yeah, it's really about, again, like my friend with the alcohol problem when he saw his granddaughter. And the work that we're doing, we know that there's no, like, you just tell somebody, but if you can present something a certain way and somebody reads it and they go, you know what, it clicks. I'm seeing it. And all of a sudden it's like, I see things from a different perspective. And Doug, you're absolutely right. We are being controlled, and we don't even like it when we try to control ourselves. It's like, you're not telling me what to do. Like, we're of 2 minds, right? Nobody likes to be told what to do, even if we know that what we're being told is the right thing. It's like, no, I'm running the show here. So we have to get around that where, okay, we're buying into it. And how do we get ourselves to do that? Because once we do, it really becomes very simple. That's the tricky part.
Is that what you present then, Richard? Like, people got to take this. If anybody who wants to take this subject seriously has got to have Richard Fast come into their workplace. Yeah, they come into their workplace, and if they're interested in their employees being stronger, if there's a family out there that knows that this philosophy can change somebody, like, reach out. Like, this doesn't have to be done one person at a time, right, Richard?
No, absolutely. One of the things I do in my talk, it's really designed to piss you off. It's designed to piss you off that, first of all, you open your eyes and go, look, we are being manipulated. When a 5-year-old child is goaded into collecting all 10 toys, when the big food companies say, look, you know what we eat is really a personal choice. And they are absolutely right about that. It is a personal choice, and it should be a personal choice. But big food companies don't want us to make that choice based on critical thinking. They don't want us to make a choice based on unconscious reality. They want us to blindly choose to eat what they're peddling. What I'm suggesting is, no. When you understand what's going on, you will make a little different personal choice. And it's not about slavishly following, some idiotic diet. It's not about that. You can eat all the food you want.
As long as
I really believe the solution has to be. Sorry, Doug?
As long as it's food, you can eat.
Well, that's the thing, right? You got to be eating food. You can't be eating concoctions. These things, and again, I just want people to realize that food companies are making billions, and they know full well what they're doing. I don't want to blame them, but I think as consumers, we got to say thank you very much, but I'm not interested in the shit you're selling.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, I sort of go by the if it doesn't grow, I don't eat it.
Good for you. Well, that's why you look so good. You do. You look fantastic.
Thank
You
you.
told me how old you were. You look amazing. Good for you.
Yeah, if it doesn't, does that grow? Does that cracker grow somewhere? No. Okay.
Yeah.
But
I love the way that you position things to be replaceable. You know, the Richard Fast message is not about Richard Fast. It's about, you know, like it's about the people that you're serving, and just you can change and leave it behind, right?
yeah, and it's not
Yeah, my
even about
slogan on my
fasting.
website is, it's about taking back control. Life
Yeah.
is about choices. Control is when you make them. And that's what I want people to be able to do. Make choices from your perspective. Like the three of us know that, how we see the world is unique to each one of us three. And the whole world, each of us see it through a different lens. And we can never know what someone else is
That's right.
thinking. But when somebody can just see the world through their perspective, we set the table to help them do that. And I really want, we all know that if it doesn't come from yourself, it's not going to last, but it has to. It has to come from you. And when it does, it has real meaning. And look, if you can, as I said earlier, you and your family are the most important people on this planet. And if you can get yourself and them to eat healthily, that's the beginning, because every cell in your brain comes from what you eat. That's the starting point. And then everything else, you can work on other things from that. But if you're not eating properly right from the get-go, we've got things like dementia and Alzheimer's and all these issues.
Oh,
don't confuse, don't think obesity is about being overweight, because it is not.
And it's not a drag to go into the kitchen. As soon as you're in the kitchen cooking something healthy, you can't think it's a drag and you're burning daylight by being there. You know what I mean? Enjoy the process. Enjoy the process of being in there and cooking.
Absolutely.
It's like the ceremony's gone, right? We got to bring the ceremony back.
That's right.
The joy of food, a glass of wine. That's what life is. It's not about eating garbage. It's about enjoying food, loving it.
That's right.
Yeah.
So here's another little curve for you, though. A lot of people grew up, and this has been in my experience, from listening from my clients. Food, like money and sex, are emotionally charged subjects. A lot of kids sat around the supper table and there was fighting and violence and anger and discussion, and the whole thought of cooking or being around food is, emotionally traumatic for them. So there's lots of reasons for the obesity. I agree with you on that. Mm-hmm. And it's just another little note. You know who the Chicken Soup for the Soul series?
Yes.
Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield.
Yeah.
I was on speaking circuits with them years ago, but they went to 144 publishers before they had that book published.
Sounds like your story, man.
So yeah. So Doug, over to you.
Over
to you to thank our guest, because our time is up already.
Richard, you know what? This is. I heard stuff today that I haven't heard, and it all fits together in the puzzle that you're offering the world. And all people have to do is pick it up, go and check out your stuff, get tapped into the subconscious mind, and we'll have you on again as things develop. It was just a pleasure.
Oh, my pleasure. Very much my pleasure. Great seeing you, Doug, and nice to meet you, Lori. I really look forward to seeing you again, hopefully.
Yes, you bet. All right. Well, if you've been watching us today here on the Press Box, our special guest, Richard Fast, and we're not talking about fasting, and Doug Smith, our host, and we'll be back again next week, same time, same station. So check out our YouTube channel where we've been streaming live. Lori Davis Show host, just search that.
Go to DougSmithPerformance.com too. I put up a couple of new videos and stuff so people can go ahead. A little self-promotion.
Of course.
Trying to help out.
And the thing that I strive to do is let people know, or have them decide that they deserve to be well. And until we know that we deserve to be well, we'll continue to do things to prevent that. So, all right. Here we go, guys.
Keep up the great work.
Yes,
Thanks, guys.
Richard.
And same to you.
Amazing.
I
gotta
love
get
your
that
work.
book.
Thank you very
I want
much.
that book. I want that book. All right, everybody. Bye for now.
Have a great day.